Tonight, Friday Night SmackDown takes place once again from inside the WWE Thunderdome at Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg, Florida. It's a special Christmas Day edition of Friday Night SmackDown. So once again, happy holidays to everyone that is watching. Hope you're having a good day and a good holiday festive period. But one of the big matches for tonight's show is, of course, the WWE Universal Championship is on the line, and it's on the line inside of a steel cage as WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns defends against Kevin Owens in a tables, ladders and chairs rematch, except this time it's not going to be in a TLC match, it's going to be inside of a steel cage. Now, of course, SmackDown this week isn't live on Fox or anything like that. It was actually taped on Tuesday. Some spoilers obviously are out there. Don't worry, we're not going to be talking about spoilers or anything like that in this video, in this preview. This is just going to be a preview talking about what to expect from tonight's match, who do I think is going to win. I haven't seen the spoilers or anything like that. I don't go into shows with spoilers or ideas of who's going to win matches or anything like that. I understand the necessary element of it, and people, it's difficult for them to, once they see the word spoiler, once they see results ahead of the time, it's difficult not to click on that link. But it's not something I do, and don't worry, we're not going to talk about spoilers or anything like that. The only thing I have heard, and I think I probably can share about SmackDown this week, is that it's a very, very good show, because there is a variety of big matches on the show. Of course, this isn't the only title match we're going to see on SmackDown tonight. Obviously, it's the Universal Championship on the line in this match. We also have an Intercontinental Championship match where Big E goes up against Sami Zayn. We also have a WWE Women's Tag Team Championship Triple Threat Tag Team Elimination match, which we also will be talking about in other previews, so be sure to check those out on the channel. But let's get into this match, specifically the Steel Cage Universal Championship match between Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens. Now let's go back to TLC. Let's talk about TLC and the great match that they had at TLC, because to be honest, the more I reflect on that pay-per-view at TLC, for me it was such a fantastic show. And I think obviously there's been lots and lots of criticism towards WWE, specifically on the Raw side of things, obviously with the ratings, the record low ratings, the poor product, etc. But what you do have to realise is that on the other side of things, on the SmackDown side of things, SmackDown has been a very good show for a while. Realistically, ever since Roman Reigns returned back at SummerSlam, since he returned in the summer, it's been a very, very consistently good show. And I think the pay-per-views have also reflected that. You look at the pay-per-view that when Roman Reigns returned, of course it was SummerSlam back in August. After that, 7 days later, you had Payback. That was very, very good. Then you had Hell in a Cell in October. You had tremendous matches on those shows. You had Survivor Series, which was an excellent show. Didn't really mean anything. The whole Raw versus SmackDown brand loyalty prospect for me just doesn't work. It just doesn't work, because how can you be or have loyalty to a specific brand if you've only been drafted to them several weeks before? That was the issue with the draft this year in Survivor Series. But nevertheless, in terms of matches, in terms of quality, in terms of show enjoyment, it was a very good show. And then it was the same with TLC. We had an excellent TLC show, an excellent TLC pay-per-view, and one of the reasons was the excellent TLC match between Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens for the Universal Championship. Now, I must say, as I mentioned, I don't know the results, and I don't know the spoilers, I don't know the finer details of what happens in this match between Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens. Of course, they're out there not just because usually if they tape something ahead of time, as we saw in the summer with the Performance Center shows earlier this year with the pandemic, we wouldn't know the results for the shows, but of course we do in this scenario. Why? Because WWE needs a crowd once again, but they have that crowd virtually in the terms of the WWE Thunderdome, apart from instead of people paying tickets to watch the show live, but that means there is an audience there, and that audience can therefore leak out the results to the show, and that's exactly what's happened. So the results are out there. So if you do want to enjoy the show, I would say to avoid those spoilers. But in terms of this match, look, I'll be totally upfront. I really don't think Kevin Owens is going to win the Universal Championship. In fact, I'm fairly certain that he won't. Obviously, it's going to be a fantastic match. And I've mentioned this before when I was speaking about TLC, when I was watching TLC, the build up to TLC, etc. I think Kevin Owens in this storyline with Roman Reigns has really truly shown his importance to WWE. And what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is, when you look at Kevin Owens 2020, realistically, what has Kevin Owens done of significance this year? You can trace his year pretty easily in WWE. At the start of the year, he was still feuding with Seth Rollins. That feud started up in about the fall of 2019. If anything, that feud went on probably too long, but he had a decent feud with Seth Rollins over on Monday Night Raw. He was the one challenging the Monday Night Messiah. All the way it went to having a match at WrestleMania 36 in the Performance Center. They had a decent match. Kevin Owens had a WrestleMania moment, which he leaped off the WrestleMania sign through an announce table. That was great. But that was about it for Kevin Owens for the majority of the year. After that, he was out for a period of time, sustained an injury at WrestleMania, then for a period of time abstained from performing for WWE due to how WWE was handling the pandemic. He, by all accounts, was the one that went to Vince McMahon and said, look, we're not wearing masks, we're not getting tested, we're not socially distant, we're not doing anything. You need to change this, otherwise I'm not going to show up. I've got to protect my family and close and loved ones first and close ones first. And look, if you don't get your ship in check, I'm not going to show up. And by all accounts, Kevin Owens truly was the one to really force Vince McMahon's hand and say, look, we need to change something. And now, I criticised WWE heavily over the spring and periods of the summer, where they didn't have any testing policy in place, where they didn't have any mask mandate or social distance policies. They were just checking people's temperature at the door and having them fill out a questionnaire. And in some cases, when the questionnaire or temperature check wasn't the way that they liked, they let them in anyway. So WWE can't say that they're innocent when it comes to the whole outbreaks that they've had at the Performance Center, but they have got significantly better as the year's gone on, and the testing and health and safety protocols for the WWE Thunderdome, whether it's been at the Amway Center or Tropicana Field, has been very, very strict. Hence why you've seen people like Kevin Owens, and most importantly in this case, in this match, Roman Reigns return, because he was another one that abstained from competing for WWE for a period of time because he didn't feel safe. Of course, he was immunocompromised as well due to his previous health conditions, and he had just had children at the time. I think he just had a set of twins, and he was like, look, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And I credit Roman Reigns. I still credit his decision at the time. I credit Kevin Owens for taking a stand up by it and making WWE, quite frankly, a better place because of it. So when you look at going back to that, when you look at Kevin Owens' year, so he faced Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. He then disappeared because of an injury and because of abstaining from performing for WWE. And then what did he do on Monday Night Raw? Nothing. Nothing of real significance. He would come back, do the Kevin Owens show, maybe get involved in the Seth Rollins storyline, maybe. He would maybe stir the pot in other storylines as the TV host, as the Kevin Owens show. When it comes to SummerSlam, he was on commentary. Yes, the former Universal Champion, the second ever Universal Champion in WWE history after Finn Balor. He was on commentary at SummerSlam in a Street Profits match. He was doing nothing. He was doing absolutely nothing. All the way until October of this year when he did get drafted to SmackDown. Even then, he was feuding with Aleister Black on Monday Night Raw. We saw how that went. Aleister Black, we haven't seen him since. Not Kevin Owens' fault, but it just goes to show Kevin Owens wasn't really doing that much. Even when he went over to SmackDown, again, for a while, wasn't doing that much, if anything at all. Then it comes to the build-up to TLC, and there was the rumor that Roman Reigns was going to be facing Daniel Bryan, right? Daniel Bryan was going to be the next opponent for Roman Reigns, now that Roman Reigns had finished feuding with Jey Uso. He had the storyline with Jey Uso, which actually went on a month longer than it was intended to. Roman Reigns was scheduled to face Jey Uso at Clash of Champions. That was really an effort and a vehicle to cement this heel turn when it comes to Roman Reigns. It was an attempt by WWE to let everyone know, look, this guy's definitely a heel. It's not the old Roman Reigns. It's a new character, new attitude, completely different, something completely different. And we're going to solidify that and let the fans know that by him beating the hell out of his cousin on pay-per-view. And the issue there is that it was too good. It was too good. It was critically acclaimed. Fans loved it. Critics liked it. Social media loved it. I think as everyone just loves everything with this new Roman Reigns character. It's just brilliant, isn't it? It's absolutely fantastic. So they decided to extend that storyline, that feud with Jey Uso. And we had the Hell in a Cell match, which was also fantastic. Well, it was an I Quit match inside of a Hell in a Cell match, wasn't it? But nevertheless, it was fantastic. So we had that. And then eventually the storyline was that Jey Uso turned heel, falls in line. Now he accepts Roman Reigns as the tribal chief and the head of the table, and now Roman Reigns is slowly building himself a faction. I assume that when Jimmy Uso returns to WWE, which isn't going to be far off, by the way, obviously Jimmy Uso got hurt in the ladder match at WrestleMania 36, spoke about WrestleMania 36 with Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, but also Jimmy Uso did get injured in that ladder match at WrestleMania 36, a triple threat ladder match, singles triple threat for the WWE Tag Team Championships, figure that one out. He got injured in that, but he is roughly expected to return to in-ring action come around January time. So it's just a matter of time before he returns, and I think he eventually aligns himself also with Roman Reigns. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we see that happen maybe at the Royal Rumble. Nevertheless, going back to my initial point there, I went off on a bit of a tangent. Nevertheless, the plan then was with Roman Reigns finishing up the feud with Jey Uso. Jey Uso now falls in line with Roman Reigns. The plan, or the rumoured plan, was that after Survivor Series and Roman Reigns had his feud with Drew McIntyre, we were going to get Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan. But it was a little bit of confusion at the time. You have to cast your mind back a little bit. The TLC card several weeks ago was so up in the air that just nobody had a clue really what was going on when it comes to the TLC card, right? Remember Drew McIntyre versus Braun Strowman? Remember all of those plans that never happened? One of the rumoured plans was Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan had just returned to SmackDown after having a couple of weeks off. Why did he have a couple of weeks off? Well, he had a stretcher job when Jey Uso, on the request of Roman Reigns, attacked him. So storyline made total sense that Daniel Bryan was going to face Roman Reigns. So everyone was expecting that. And then WWE, they did a bit of a diversion. They said, you know what, we'll push off Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan. We'll have that happen, say, at the Royal Rumble. And that looks to be, I think, the plan for the Royal Rumble, is to have Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan, for them to do that match, that feud in January. So in the meantime, they needed an interim opponent. That was Kevin Owens. And my long-winded point here is that I think we've kind of got the situation again that we had when we had Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso, in that this has been so good and maybe better than even anyone imagined. The build-up to TLC was incredibly critically acclaimed. You have to remember, this is a time, as I mentioned, a time of the year where ratings traditionally are down for pro wrestling programs anyway. Obviously, there's been so much discussion and talk about what ratings mean. Are they legitimate? Are they important in 2020? When it comes to ratings, again, I'll say what I say all the time. Are ratings important in 2020 or 2021 nearly? Do they serve a purpose? Absolutely. They absolutely do. They always will be important, because they're important to the television companies, the television networks, and they're also very important to the advertisers, because television drives pro wrestling at the moment. The reason that WWE are doing so well in terms of money is because of their contracts with NBC Universal for Monday Night Raw on the USA Network, and specifically Friday Night SmackDown on Fox. The Fox deal is worth $1 billion. The NBC Universal contract is a little bit less than that, but it's still very, very profitable. You look at AEW. AEW, it was profitable in its first year because they re-signed a deal with TNT to keep them on for 3 years, and that money enough alone made them profitable. And they only do TV events, really. So it just goes to show that television is driving pro wrestling. Therefore, ratings will always be important. Ratings will always be important regardless of the year that it's in. But when it comes to ratings, what we do have to understand about ratings is that they only tell maybe this much of the story as opposed to everything. They don't tell the whole picture of the story. They just don't. They don't take into account DVR, on-demand, streams, YouTube highlights the next day, social media trends, people watching the show on social media and on other platforms. They just don't take into account all of those factors. People consume content differently in 2020. They just do. And this idea that we're waiting for the ratings to go back to what they were in the late 90s and the Monday Night Wars, and we're waiting for pro wrestling to boom again. If it does boom, who knows if it has boomed or not. The fact is that pro wrestling isn't going to boom in the same way that it boomed before. Pro wrestling isn't going to boom in the way that ratings will explode. If pro wrestling booms, or if we ever have another pro wrestling boom, it will happen in a completely different way. And who's to say that it's not as popular as it was before, in the sense that it always trends nearly number one on social media. It does very, very well on YouTube. WWE has one of the highest YouTube subscriber counts. They have one of the biggest social media followings. Who's to say? Who's to say that WWE isn't booming? You know, it does. My point being that when it comes to the ratings, it only tells a fraction of the story. It doesn't tell everything. It doesn't tell the whole picture. It just tells you a snapshot. But my point being there is that an idea, an indication of how successful this Roman Reigns feud has been with Kevin Owens, and the success of this Roman Reigns character, is while you've got Monday Night Raw struggling and hitting record lows in the ratings, SmackDown's been doing pretty fine, really, considering all of the circumstances. Are they down from last year? Yes. Are they down from prior to the pandemic? Yes. Television is down prior to the pandemic, though. Again, I say it with Raw. I don't like to use it as an excuse, because I think Raw, there are just fundamental issues that will always go down. But SmackDown's doing okay. Other programs like AEW are doing okay. The reason why is because they're putting on good content. And Roman Reigns, his character, his heel turn, they're a massive factor in that. It's a massive factor in that. And as I said, going into TLC, And we saw rises in the SmackDown rates, and we even saw when they moved to FS1 for the TLC Go Home show, it did over 1 million live viewers, which it's never done before for any of the FS1 shows. They just didn't do that previously. It was always 800,000, 750,000, around that, because it's cable. Not many people have FS1. It's a specialty channel, etc. They did over 1 million live viewers, which, like I said, considering the circumstances, considering the time of year, December, considering the pandemic, people cutting the cord when it comes to cable, people watching television differently year on year on year, for them to do an improvement, for them to do over 1 million live viewers, goes to show that there's something going very, very right when it comes to the content and it comes to the program that SmackDown is delivering right now. And the Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens feud, it's a massive part of that. It's an absolute massive part of that. So again, I think we could be looking at a situation when it comes to Roman Reigns that it might be the same issue that he had with Jey Uso, in that this was meant to be a one and done program, but it's been so successful. Kevin Owens has done so well, and the chemistry that Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens has been so successful that they carry this on, and I could see this going to the Royal Rumble. Obviously, we have the rematch tonight on SmackDown inside of a steel cage for the Universal Championship, but I wouldn't be stunned. I just wouldn't be stunned in the slightest if come January they go, you know what, we were going to do Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan, but this is a hot feud, this is a hot angle, and we need to continue it. And Daniel Bryan won't care about that. Daniel Bryan's openly said, look, Daniel Bryan works on the creative team for SmackDown now. He helps write the show, he helps write storylines. A lot of the storylines are pertaining to himself, but he does help and contribute ideas for other people. He said at this point, you know what, I'm becoming more and more of a part-time superstar and a full-time dad. I'm more about contributing to the show, helping put the younger guys over. And if they said to him, look, we were going to have you feud with Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship at the Royal Rumble, but the Kevin Owens angle's so hot now, we want to continue that, he'd go, fine, do it. You know, I don't want to be in the spotlight that much anymore. His love's for pro wrestling, not for the spotlight. So I think if this is a hot angle and they continue it to the Royal Rumble, Daniel Bryan won't have a problem with it. The fans certainly won't have a problem with it. If it's hot, if it's right, do it, continue it. And I mentioned that the performance when it came to TLC, specifically Kevin Owens, to me felt so much like Mick Foley. If you watch Mick Foley and Mankind in 97, 98, 99, he just basically got the hell kicked out of him, but he kept getting up, and he became such a sympathetic babyface. Truly one of the all-time great sympathetic babyfaces. And Foley did it by getting the hell kicked out of him all the time, but getting up, and just getting up over and over again. Because of that, he became a 3-time WWE champion, and arguably the hottest period, certainly in television, of WWE's history. Why? Because he was a great sympathetic babyface. To me, Kevin Owens felt like that at the weekend. He told us going into TLC, you know, I'm going to die trying to defeat you for the Universal Championship, and he had everything against him. He had Roman Reigns hitting him with low blows. He had Jey Uso consistently interfering, and he became very, very close in winning the Universal Championship. And every time he had this big move, whether he got put through tables or hit with chairs, hit with ladders, whatever, Kevin Owens kept getting up and got very, very close. And like I said, to me, it felt like Mick Foley. It felt like Mankind in 98 and 99 as a guy just never say quit, openly was a family man. Mick Foley, his character Mankind, as crazy and deranged as he was, it was always about being a family man and providing for his kids at home and his family at home. And it's kind of the same with Kevin Owens. And it's slightly surprising, I think, because for a long time, a very long time, I always felt personally that Kevin Owens did his best work as a heel. Obviously, we know his work as a heel from early in NXT and WWE and ROH, etc. Kevin Owens always did his best work as a heel. But arguably now, at this current stage in his career in 2020 going into 2021, Kevin Owens might be better as a babyface because we know the real Kevin Owens. We know Kevin Steen at this point. We know that in real life he's not that much of a bad guy. If anything, he's a great guy in real life. You look at the way he talks on social media. He's all about his family, providing for his family. And previously they took the edge of he does bad things to provide for his family. But now you kind of see who he really is. He really is the everyman. He really is someone that is all about providing for the family. And that's his priority, and that comes first. And I think that really shone through with his performance at TLC last Sunday. I felt that, again, he just felt like Mick Foley. That's what I just kept saying. I said it on the watch long. You can go and see it on the channel. Straight away, I was just like, it's Mick Foley. It's Mick Foley in the Attitude Era. So, as I mentioned, I don't know the result. I don't know the outcome. I haven't seen the spoilers or anything like that. But what I will say is I think it's going to be another fantastic match. I expect Roman Reigns to retain, but I hope this feud continues on for a while. I hope it goes till the Royal Rumble in January because I'm loving everything about this angle, this feud, and obviously this Roman Reigns character. So Very excited to see this match tonight. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens tonight for the Universal Championship inside of a steel cage for SmackDown on Fox? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to share your opinion, get involved with the community, drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.